This is a response to a thread. I only need one album by these 10 artists. And they're in no particular order. I did not necessarily mean to start with the Cowboy Junkies. I love this record. Absolutely love this record. I might like this record more than any of the other records that I'm about to describe. Nah, not really, but it's one of the tops for sure. Absolutely love this record. Came out when I was in high school. And it wasn't necessarily what I was listening to. I mean, it's pretty damn mellow, for somebody who's like 16 years old. But there's a Lou Reed Velvet Underground connection with them covering Sweet Jane, which of course made me very interested. I was just getting into the Velvets, and this came out, and I absolutely love the version. And it was really interesting because it was quite different than the version of Sweet Jane that is on Loaded. And it would take me a while before I found Live 1969, that has the version that I think was the impetus for this. This is the version that they covered on the Trinity session, which was all recorded in a church. I read about it recently. I guess it was like a super, super cold winter day, and they're trying to get everything just right to record in there. And I mean, they captured magic. I heard it wasn't that pleasant for the people involved, but boy, it sure sounds amazing. And I also found out recently that they tried to do the same approach with their next record, and they just released that version. They decided not to use it and went into a studio to record it. But this is just an amazing record. Great, great, great Sunday morning record. Sustains the mood really well. Margot Timmons and her brothers. I mean, just gorgeous music, really special. And I don't think lightning struck twice with them. I saw them, I think, on the boy, I remember forgetting the name of the record, Black Eyed Man. Yeah, I think it was Black Eyed Man. I saw them on that tour, and they were great. And I've followed not every record, but like recently they did Vic Chestnut songs after Vic passed away, and I appreciate that. And there's always albums that I check out. I checked out their latest one and thought it sounded pretty good too. But as far as owning them, as far as records that I seek out, I think when I hear Cowboy Junkies, or when I hear that, think of what Cowboy Junkies to hear, it's always this one. Be hard in a way for me to put on another record and not want to play this one. So it just has a special place for me. Great record, highly recommended if anybody watching has not heard this record. It's quiet, it's meditative, it's very mellow, and it's quite beautiful. Great record. Cowboy Junkies, the Trinity Session. I do my reach around here and see what I have next. Tracy Chapman. Okay, I love this too. I can't say that I've gotten into the record that much. I know the singles mostly, and I picked this up recently, relatively recently. I mean, in the last 5 years. I think. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's worth a lot of money. Maybe I picked it up way before then. I'm not sure, actually, how I found this record. But great record. I mean, talking about Revolution, Fast Car, excellent songs. In Fast Car, you just could not possibly hear it more than you would hear it like in the summer, or maybe it was the fall of 1988, I believe, or 89. It was everywhere. And a great kind of groundbreaking artist, really interesting song, not the type of thing you heard much on the radio. I mean, this was like hair metal was king, pop, overproduced pop. I mean, that's kind of been the case in a way ever since, with brief interludes. But just a great album. It really stood out at the time, that especially those singles. And the album, it sounds good too. I'm not super familiar with it. And maybe there'll come a time when I will get into Tracy Chapman a little bit more. But for now, it's the only record I really need. I'm not really seeking out any others. For a long time, I was like, whatever happened to Tracy Chapman? It seemed like she should have had a career that was much more long-lasting than she has. I know she's still making records, I think. But it's just, you don't really hear about her. And she's an artist that really, kind of demanded to be heard, you would think, for quite a while. But Tracy Chapman, this self-titled album, quite a good one to get. I love the simplicity of the cover too. It's just gorgeous. Looks like a kid. It's such innocence, and she was young. I think she might have been like 19 when she made this. But very good album, Tracy Chapman. Only need one though, I think. All right, what do we have next? We're switching gears quite a bit. Tracy Chapman to Iron Maiden. I like Iron Maiden. I do. I don't listen to him that much. I used to joke around that I passed my history classes in high school because of my Iron Maiden fandom, because I listened to a lot of Iron Maiden, and they'd sing about Alexander the Great or whatever, and then I'd have a quiz on Russian history, and I could just remember those lyrics from Iron Maiden and kind of get it half right. This album's just a legendary live album too. It's gatefold. I bought this at the height of cassettes, really. I think I couldn't find it on cassette, and so I bought it on vinyl. And plus, it's just pretty damn cool to have this cover. But I don't know. I love the lineup. I love the lineup of songs and the classic lineup too. I love just sections like "Scream for Me, Long Beach," and Wilson or Churchill's speech at the beginning of Aces High, and 2 minutes to or maybe it's 2 minutes to midnight. Just a I don't know, and greatest hits of Iron Maiden performed incredibly well. Now, if somebody was to give me Power Slave or Number of the Beast, or I found them cheap somewhere, I would probably pick them up. I just don't play this kind of music very often. And right now, I've had this copy, this exact same one, since I was probably 15, and I quite like having it in my collection, but I can't say that I am seeking out or looking for any other albums other than Live After Death. Iron Maiden. Boy, I was going to write a memoir at one time. I was thinking about it, and it was going to be about, I'm going to not even bother trying to match that. I was going to call it Pictures of Eddie, because Eddie, their mascot, was on every Iron Maiden album, and everybody in study hall was like drawing pictures of Eddie, and I thought it'd be a good like memoir about high school, but I don't really want to write a book about high school. It's not really that interesting to me. All right, another one that I only need one album by is Love, Forever Changes. Probably criminal to some of the people on here. I know this album's amazing, or it's supposed to be amazing. I only really connect with that Alone Again first song. I know there's probably more to digest with this album. There's been times that I've played it and I've enjoyed it, and other times where I'm like, I'm just not in the mood for this at all after that first song plays. So it's also, I have memory of like Scooby-Doo or some cartoon. I think it was Scooby-Doo where Love was on it. Or I don't know what it was. One of those, I think it was Scooby-Doo, but that doesn't really make sense. But one of those, I saw an old Love version of Love, or the original version of Love, on an old TV show, and it just kind of didn't do a thing for me when I was getting into classic rock. So maybe that colors my perception on these things too. But right now I only need this one album, Forever Changes, and maybe that will change, but right now it's covering all the bases for Love. And what do we have next? Oh, Dire Straits. Everybody talks about this record for the sound. I think of this record and I think of that video for Money for Nothing, which just aired over and over and over. I think because MTV got their name mentioned in it, broke Dire Straits on a huge level that they weren't at before. And then I think they were kind of probably never the same afterwards. Put out a couple more records, if that, and then broke up. But it is a good record. I do like it. I like, So Far Away From Me is probably I like the way it begins. So Far Away From Me. There's a few other songs in there I like. I have not played it recently, but they're one of these bands that I've tried to get into. I've tried to play, I think, Making Movies and that first one, and they sound okay when they're playing, but they never really make me want to hear more. And maybe that'll change too. Maybe someday I'll get on a huge Dire Straits kick. I'm going to try it on Friday. I think I played that Making Movies album, and I don't know, it sounded okay, but this is the one to have. It does sound really good. I know it was also like the first CD, so people talk about it, or first CD on a mass scale, so people talk about this album for all kinds of reasons. But yeah, it's the only one I need right now. Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits. I cannot do this right. I've done it before on videos, and this my favorite album. Really, I mean, one of my favorite albums. Not my favorite album. One of my favorite albums. This came out when I was in high school. I played the shit out of this album. I played this album over and over and over. It was right when I got my license too. It just wore out the cassette. I mean, knew all the lyrics, would quote them with friends, kind of like what I mentioned in a previous video about OK Computer, which would happen, quite a few years later, but about 10 years later. But when this came out, it was so refreshing. I remember it just drove a stake through the hair generation in a way, the hair metal stuff. It all sounded so silly when this came out. Because here's a band that has more in common with the Rolling Stones, that just deliver just kick-ass rock and roll with just incredible songwriting skills and a vocalist. I mean, when this first came out, I know I wasn't alone in wondering if it was the same singer that was on something with a lower voice, like, I don't know, It's So Easy or Mr. Brownstone, as somebody who's hitting all those high notes, like on Paradise City. It was just quite a vocal feat, and even like the name W Axl Rose was just there's some mystery to it, and this album is phenomenal. I saw them open up for Aerosmith, and they came out. I think I mentioned this in a previous video. They came out at that show and announced that their record had just hit #1, and it was just a really great show. But I don't know if there's any other band that has been active that I've been into that has been such a colossal failure in my mind for other albums. They took forever following up this record. They put out GNR Lies, which was basically 2 EPs, a new EP of acoustic stuff and another EP that they recorded, Live Like a Suicide, before this record. It was designed to look like a real indie thing, but it was really Geffen was behind it. But I could live without Live Like a Suicide. It's okay. But I absolutely love Lies. I think it's great. I haven't played it in years, but I wouldn't mind picking up that record. But those are EPs. Those are not full length. So I guess my definition here is full length record. I do not need any of the Illusions, and I don't need Chinese Democracy. I've heard them all. I bought the Illusions the day they came out. I thought it was completely bloated and ridiculous at the time, and that's definitely not changed. I didn't like them right away. I mean, I like some songs, but like even Right Next Door to Hell, I'm like, what is this? And all the sound effects and weird Axl too much time in the studio type stuff that was going on. My World. Each album was essentially a double album. So now, if it was on vinyl, it is on vinyl, I guess. It would be like 4 records. I mean, it's just way too much. Make one, edit it down. They probably could have had a decent follow-up to Appetite for Destruction. And by editing it down, I mean not just trimming songs, but trimming sound effects and weird ass shit from Axl. But this album, love it. Don't play very often anymore. It's one that's just in my head. I don't even need to. Olivia Tremor Control. I got into them for a while. I got into the whole Elephant Six thing, mostly through Neutral Milk Hotel and Dusk at Cubist Castle. That's the name of this one. And I think the other one I had was Black Foliage, I think. I like this one better. I never got the other one on vinyl. I had it on CD for a while. I never play this anymore. I haven't played it in 15 to 20 years. And I'm glad I have it. It reminds me of those times when I was kind of seeking out the Elephant Six stuff, but I don't need another Olivia Tremor Control in my collection. But I sure like the band name. I think I saw them live once too. I'm not sure of that though. There are a lot of different configurations of the Elephant Six bands and who was playing with who, but that's another story. All right, I'm going to do an honorable mention first, actually. Or not an honorable mention, part of my top 10. I just don't have it on CD. And that is a band that absolutely blew me away in like 2004. I think it was 2004. They put out an album. I remember they were playing at the 400 Bar in Minneapolis. They put out this album, and I like got into it. And I think they were playing like a week later, and it was completely sold out. This band's Arcade Fire, and the album is Funeral. And I love that record. And when I saw them play live, it was at First Avenue. They came through again for that same album. And I was in an audience of a lot of younger people. and 14, 15-year-olds. It was an all ages show, and I just remember thinking, this is their band. This is like, I don't know, some 14-year-old seeing The Clash in 1977, or 14-year-old me seeing REM in 1987. It was that sort of thing. You could just tell for these people, the young people, and people like me. I mean, it was just a great show. Love that album. Love the thematics of it. Winter, tunnels. It just it really conjures up imagery of a specific like time of season and era, like a bygone era, like the Victrola on the cover. And I really like that album. I like Neon Bible. I thought it was okay. I like some songs on it a lot. They kind of lost me with the Suburbs. I don't know. Maybe I just moved on. Again, kind of like Cowboy Junkies and a couple other bands I mentioned. If I was to find other records there, somebody gave them to me, or they were cheap, I would probably pick them up because they do respect the band quite a bit. But it just seems like every album, diminishing returns for me, more and more so with each one, which is kind of crazy. And I'm usually not one of those people. I usually stick with bands, and I cannot quite understand sometimes why people drop off on bands that I consider excellent. And I'm sure people watch this and think The Suburbs, my God, that's probably their best record. But yeah, for whatever reason, maybe it was the gimmicks that they started doing. Saw them live quite a few times. They're always great. But yeah, for some reason, the only album I think I really need by them now is Funeral. And that came out in 2004. And wow, what a record it was. Absolutely phenomenal. All right, what do I have behind here? I think I'm getting towards the end. I might have one or two records left. Two. Sex Pistols, Never Mind the Bollocks, here's the Sex Pistols. Some people will go, well, they only have one album, but they kind of don't. I mean, there's other collections. There's that, now I'm forgetting, the Great Rock and Roll Swindle album with Sid singing a lot of songs and outtakes and kind of various things kind of culled together. And I think that was probably his album out, or songs from the movie that came out too. This album's great. I love this album. It's one I don't play very often because I know it really well. But there's been a few times that I put it on like in the car, and it just sounds amazing, And it brings you right back to like the first times you've heard it. And I definitely want this in my collection, but I don't need to seek out all the other stuff. I'm quite happy with this one. It has all the songs I want on it. Short of like getting those original singles, which would be cool sometime. Never Mind the Bollocks is the only record by the Sex Pistols that I need. Okay, War on Drugs. I guess it kind of goes with Dire Straits, or at least according to Mark Kozilek, who had a really, beef with War on Drugs because they were playing some festival at the same time he was, and he raised all kinds of hell about it, and they like really liked him. It was, I don't know, it was a weird situation. For whatever reason, I've never really gotten into them. It sounds fine when it plays, and I remember liking some songs off the latest one, and should probably listen to the album again, but I doubt I'd pick it up. Because I don't play this one very often. They're one of those bands, gets a lot of respect. A lot of people would probably be like, well, why don't you listen to that? I don't know. For whatever reason, it doesn't really stick with me, but I still think this is probably their best record and enjoy having it in my collection. So, War on Drugs, Lost in the Flood, Lost in the Dream, and I think that might be it. Okay, that's it. So these are all albums that to follow the digital gramophones thread that he started. That bands I only really need one album by. Maybe that'll change sometime, but for now, totally happy with these 10 albums. Definitely not on Discogs looking for their siblings, but enjoy the fact that I have them. So thanks everyone. Appreciate it.